Hello guys, how is everyone doing today? Hope everyone is having a lovely evening. This is basically just a continued season update from my Kings of Men server. Now we are getting more towards the end of our server. I figured I'd give another update. It's a little bit later since the previous one, as you might be able to hear it. I've had slight kind of sinusy issues with a cold, but enough of that. We'll get into the kind of gameplay and see what I can show you, as there's been a huge amount of change so far in our season, as a lot of you will notice if you've seen the previous maps. So the first and probably the most obvious thing is that the kingdom that was sitting in previously in Barad-dûr is no more. This was the Time and Ungo Fellowship, so they no longer have a kingdom in that area following Dino taking the capital. So we will start with that and then kind of cycle round the map following that. So we have, so you can see that, so what happened was Dinos basically pushed across here. They were previously fighting a lot around that kind of Fangorn sort of area, and continued pushing across and through the various keeps like Eminwheel, Dead Marshes, through the pass at the Black Gate, and then eventually also took Barad-dûr and then other territories. There's a few still owned by Time and Ungo, you can see sitting down here, such as Southern Khand, Northern Khand and Evo-Duath. However, of course, as a kingdom, they no longer exist at the minute, which is not pleasant to see. Obviously, we've been there this season when we lost Orthanc earlier on in the season. And at that time, Time and Ungo were one of the teams that actually tried to aid us at that time, so it's not exactly ideal to see. I'll pick a little bit more up on that later once I've explained through kind of the home update. If I then kind of scroll through and look at kind of other areas, can you guys see the stream here? Can everyone let me know if you can see the stream? Because it looks like on mine it still says stream starting soon, but I don't know if I'm outdated. Oh no, it is loading up. Good. A bit of an error in my stream software there for a second. So if we scroll across, you'll see that the kingdom of Bern and Mora still exists. Sorry, not Bern and Mora. Mora and Jedi still exists. So we covered that in the last update, in that what happened was Mora had moved across, starting kind of from Nan Lef Nui, which they actually took from Jedi, who've become their kingdom partners. And they've pushed across through the lands that were previously held, originally at the start of the season by IRSS, were then taken by Dino and Saw. Of course, IRSS and Mora being the same kingdom, they kind of pushed across, and Mora retook what was their previous capital, Dol Amroth, and continue to take some of these kind of greater Gondor realms, which they've kind of held since. You'll see that kind of they've held that land, but there's no longer pins where they previously were. So we did previously have pins over here on the pass down here into Andrast, where we were being hit previously by IRSS and a little bit of Bern, and there's only a tiny pin up here now for the pass. You see, there's a lot of armies still here, however, but the pass between Mora and the Nan Lef Nui region and Tawalawa. So we're no longer being kind of hit by those teams, at least not in this area. We will see also is the increased streak of brown, which we'll cover in a second, but Home's movement themselves previously were kind of trapped in our spawn region, having just cleared out most of our spawn. We have pushed out and retaken Fangorn and Gap of Rohan, which was held by I believe it was Time, but yeah, the Time Ungo Kingdom, and so that was previously held by them. And then Fangorn as well, which of course we did have lands in that area previously, and until we were kind of cleared out of there. And then we've also taken Celebrant Fields as well, which again I believe was held by Time and Ungo. but where we've never held that previously. So the reason for that is we had to expand out somewhere, and essentially we were at a continual kind of stalemate with IRSS, Burn, Mora and Jedi, with the four fellowships of the two kingdoms attacking us over these 2 points. We were just continually stalemating with each other. Kind of one team would push forwards, then the other team would push back, and it'd end up all just kicking around the same sort of passes. So the leaders of the team that actually currently holds our kingdom capital, which is Drum, they actually discussed with IRSS ways to, basically cease hostilities for now, so that we could both move in different directions, basically. As I said previously, I'm not really involved in the diplomatic side of things, so I didn't see the insides and outs of that. I know that a lot of the negotiations were done kind of without my own fellowship, at least not been included originally. It was kind of discussions between Drum, IRSS and Mora, but once those kind of agreements were made, we've honoured them, basically, which has meant that IRSS, whose kingdom of course is up in the north, up here, I think we covered previously, was taken from the Sand Burn kingdom, which then became IRSS and Burn up in Gundabad. They have captured Paths of the Dead via their previous allies Mora, who they're still on good terms with. Captured Paths of the Dead, and then they've pushed north from there through the Fold, through the Wold, and as of today, very recently actually, they have taken the Undeeps. So their intention of having kind of us off their back appears to be to try and get themselves involved in this scrap for Dol Guldur, basically. They kind of haven't had their shot as of yet, so they kind of wanted to see if they could influence proceedings. Of course, we've seen at times Chaos take on UTTP only, who's this blue kingdom, and take on Dinosaur, the green kingdom, previously at the same time. So now it looks like it's going to be IRSS and then UTTP only, seeing if they can make a bigger dent together. I don't believe Dinosaur's getting involved in this. I think they've kind of settled for the lands that they have now, because they have, I believe they have the 3 capitals, I think. Might be 2. But they have Umbar over here. And of course they have Barad-dûr up here. I don't think they have the 3rd one. But yeah, I think at the moment they're kind of settling for what they have so far, so which is 2. Of course, that means IRSS and Burn have 2, as they have Edoras down here, as well as their own capital Gundabad up here as well. So there's a change here with IRSS pushing their way up through, having kind of got us off their backs, not having to fight them all the time. And to be honest, it was a massive change from where we were earlier in the season, where IRSS fought obviously against Home and Drum and absolutely steamrolled us. By the later stage of the season, we were able to deal with them and Mora, as well as some players from Burn and from Jedi as well, who were obviously supporting Mora, which is quite a big change from where we were at the start of the season. So we're actually competing a lot better on those battlefronts, which is great to see, that we're actually able to, once we've got up and running, we were just really slow starting this server, but once we're up and running, we've been able to actually kind of, impact some wars in a meaningful way, and prove that we're not just there to be trodden on, essentially. So that's kind of the movements of Home so far. However, what has occurred as a result of these 2 movements is that, of course, we took 3 keeps actually from Time and Ungo, which had disgruntled them somewhat, as of course they kind of blame us for taking empty keeps, which we have done, and we have done a few times. Same as a little bit earlier on in the season when we were accused of that by IRSS, who then duly came and attacked. Same thing has essentially happened here. So upon losing their kingdom, a lot of the Time and Ungo players have folded into the Burn Fellowship, who had a lot of space, and then they've using burn, they've been attacking us via the Gap of Rohan. And we've kind of been stalemating around there. I will show some of that in a moment. But we currently have our biggest ping of the season, around 16 million. So it's nice to see that we can still compete in this kind of arena. Yes, they've also, there's been a lot of using of the kind of the main hall ability. So once they'd lost capital and things like that, players are, previous Ungo and Time players are basically using the main hall to try and like jump into our spawn. This one's been relocated, but yeah, jumping into spawn, which we've had to keep having to backpedal and kind of deal with, and then come back to the front, which isn't ideal. But it's always going to happen in these kind of servers, and it's nothing different to what every other team's had to deal with going through the season. So can't really complain. It's just part of the mechanics, unfortunately, of this of the King of Men servers, as they are now anyway. Hopefully that mechanic gets removed. Otherwise, the whole point of the passes and things like that are completely pointless. But we'll see. Yeah, and then so we've obviously been scrapping their fort down here. I'll come back to this in a moment. If we look elsewhere, there's not a huge amount of change. There's a tiny ping up here, which I believe is just like a random rogue fellowship hitting a couple of chaos players. No change up in the northeast, but then there's a hell of a lot of pings going on around Dol Guldur. So unfortunately we can no longer see combatants for some reason on pings since the most recent update, which is frustrating. So we can't see who's kind of involved and who's kind of the top fellowships, which is frustrating. But you can fairly guess based on the consistent pattern of this season that these three pings here are going to be Only and UTTP attacking Chaos via the tunnels. So we've got a 19 million ping here, 18 here, and then a smaller 1 million ping here. And if we zoom in, we'll see that at the minute, kind of Chaos is still holding these tunnels at the moment against UTTP here. And a little bit further along, we'll see that UTTP has managed to break through the kind of eastern tunnel and are now coming in towards Dol Guldur lands via this way. So I'm not sure how far they've got through doing this. I'm not even sure how they then get into Dol Guldur, to be honest, since the map changed. But there we go. So it looks like it's about here where they've started. Actually, it looks like they've been kind of joining up with IRSS, as it were. So kind of working together rather than against each other, and then building up here to seek to attack via these tunnels against Chaos. So that looks like it's going to be the major choke point, with of course UTTP only also having this northern tunnel available as well to attack through. So that could change some of the kind of dynamics. There's a smaller ping here, which is a kind of pre-existing ping where Chaos and IRSS, Chaos also tried to hold off IRSS from the Undeeps area, but so excuse me, there's a lot to ask being stretched across three areas which are very, very separate. So if we then come over, I sort of come back to it to where we've been fighting, as that's probably the areas most people want to see. It's kind of been going back and forth, to be honest. So we've pushed about 6 o'clock-ish, so about an hour and a half ago. We had pushed through and pushed up to kind of around this area. Burn have then pushed back. Several times here we've fought kind of around this crossing and then broken. I think yesterday we broke a stack here of around 65, 70 armies. You can see it's getting back up towards that. I think they've got about 50 stacked up now. We're running a little bit shorter actually. We've only got kind of 50 odd sitting here, but I think that's because where we've just done that push, a few people are reinforcing and then coming back to the front. So yeah, we're just kind of stalemating around this crossing, to be honest. One team pushes forward, one team pushes back. One weapon we do have in our arsenal, which is useful, is that we're currently sat in Gap of Rohan. So if needs be, we can always use the reinforcement debuff available through the kingdom buffs to prevent the opponent from reinforcing, which means that if it ever gets any kind of ropey around here, we can just prevent them from being able to reinforce, and that should allow us to push up to where there's kind of the separation between the two regions, which I believe is this little choke point here. So we do kind of have something useful sitting in our back pocket, which is quite good. So that's kind of the update of where things have been. going kind of recently. Sorry, I haven't answered any comments as of yet. I'll pick them up now. Eugene, hello. Thank you for stopping in on the server. I really appreciate that. And it's good to see you've been commenting on a lot of my videos, so I do really appreciate it. Stefano, can I wish happy birthday to Scorp? Definitely, yeah. Happy birthday, Scorp. I hope you've had a wonderful day. And then JC saying you kind of hold both IRSS Moorburn later on really effective. There's a lot of not really effective since both people. Yes, because I should definitely have covered that. So whilst we did hold off those kind of 4 fellowships, the dynamic of those fellowships is very, very different, of course, as to where they were at the start of the season, where we saw kind of earlier updates, probably like 3rd or 4th update, that IRSS was fighting at one point ourselves, though definitely a weaker version of our kingdom, along with Dino and Saw, as well as some of Time and Ungo as well. So a lot of IRSS players folded into the Chaos team, Chaos / Sith team, as well as UTTP only. So yeah, they definitely had a lot of kind of bigger players move elsewhere. So yeah, that's definitely a good thing to bring up. Thank you for noting that. That's definitely something I missed. I meant to add in. So thank you very much for bringing that up. Yeah, so there's been a lot of kind of team dynamic changes between kingdoms and obviously around the map with kingdom changes as well. Burn has definitely been pushed up in strength as a result, as we'll probably see. Some of these players will be Burn players, but a hell of a lot of them are essentially Time and Ungo players. So this isn't kind of the Burn from the start of the season that we're fighting. We're essentially fighting Time and Ungo here, who I think where they lost out to Dino and Saw, maybe if they see us as a slightly easier target, but we're trying to prove we can kind of hold our own against this team. Just see, this is Burn player here. Again, Time again. A lot of these players will be Time and Ungo players. This is Burn. Burn again. Yeah, there's quite a few which are so it's kind of like an amalgamated pair of fellowships. So at least the benefit of that is removing inactive players and being able to fold in all the actives from those Time Ungo fellowships means that you do have a fully active kind of fellowship. So they're definitely very strong now. So there's a different kind of proposition that we're having to take on here. We've been hit a few times throughout the day. So if I show kind of some of our PvP reports, that should excuse me, give a showing of kind of what we've had so far personally in this server. So if I just fold this all into PvP. Now a lot of this has been while I've been at work today, so a lot of these, that's why you'll see we kind of get draws then failures, because I wouldn't have been online at the time, so therefore we got hit more than once, unfortunately. If we go all the way back to yesterday, potentially, let's see if we've got any others kicking round. Of course, we don't want to see just tile captures. So we have, let's start with this one here. So we have my Dwalin taking on an Aomer. My Dwalin being primarily a purple user. Other than the Cask of Pride, which I've just started building up, which is quite useful. As I did get the melee suppression buff, which is handy. So yeah, Dwalin, his rank respect 18, I think, was a little bit off the ideal respect, as I've got a point in Longbeard, but ideally I get him to respect 20 so that I could put 2 points. 2 points in his bottom respect 0 in order to get 1 point into relief, so I get the debuff. However, against good side troops, Longbeard's actually a lot of the time more useful, and as you see here, we do get a victory against this AMR, which is a very strong AMR, using a 3 times refined unique. Of course, his unique being particularly strong against ranged units, so actually a matchup that's very good for my Dwalin, as you know, the ranged units he uses are kind of there just as distractions, really, more than anything. So the benefit of fighting these ranged units doesn't really come to pass, but it's still a very good unique. Still gives +6 attack to all of these mounted units. and also has a Blitz Fiddle of the Eldest. Again, a very good accessory. But our Dwalin does well, and zeros the AMR. It's a very, our losses are fairly cheap. 100 Marksmen, Tier 2, 100 Sentinels, and then just over 4,000 Guardians, which resource-wise are extremely cheap compared to 25 command of Cataphracts, Cavaliers, and particularly the Swan Knights, which all are extremely expensive to replace. So this was a good victory on our part. We then had this with a Witch King against Aragorn, King of Men. This I thought was a very good, I'm going to call this a victory despite it being a draw. We definitely got the better of it, which I think is a good result, as normally Aragorn, King of Men is a fantastic counter to Witch King, as his respect 5 skill King of Men, that minus 90% damage received when affected by stun or madness, almost always kicks in as a result of the Nazgul Screech skill, which hits in round 1. So that means for the entirety of the battle, basically, the enemy troops have that minus 90%. So he still performed extremely well, using an all-tank build, as of course you would normally with a commander based around commander damage, with Cataphracts, Guards of the Tower, and then actually using Dunedain as well, which I assume is to counter against any Sunins. But using the Pierce Mirkwood bow as well, which I'm a big fan of. But we come out very well in this, basically. That standard non-roleplay King of Men combo of Swans, Alchemists, and War Drummers doing well for us, with the amount of damage that the Alchemists put out being very, very strong. So again, this is a very good result for us in an unfavourable matchup this time. I don't think we hit much after this. Yeah, we were just kind of zeroed everything back. I had my Gandalf the Grey at one point hit up against this Dwalin. This is, it's a very strong Dwalin, but low on troops, so nothing can be taken kind of from that. And then we had a Gandalf the Grey versus Gandalf the Grey mirror match. Mine's a little bit low on lost a few troops from that last scrap. His is running extremely high tanks. This is always going to be a battle of the Draw Kings, but we come out slightly on top. And then our Witch King had a three-way battle, so it finished off the King of Men. I think it's the same one we saw earlier, I believe. I could be wrong. It's a different King of Men. So yeah, my Witch King hit an empty King of Men. No troops there at all. Then hit this Isildur for a very strong result. This is Horik is another time player that's been inducted into Burn, using Isildur's unique. Reasonably strong build. Ranger's Shroud, so gets the benefit of that damage from the Sentinels. And it's curious that he's using 15 points in King of all the Dunedain, but not using Ranger units. Normally you'd go with a lot of Dunedain, but you'd also use Rangers as well. He's decided instead to use Guards of the Tower for some reason. Maybe he didn't have any Rangers available at the time. But either way, a very positive result for Witch King, a kind of overwhelming victory. And then, again, this is a very strong result against the same player, this time his Gil-galad in the follow-up. Of course, we're low on troops after that previous scrap, and then we hit a full Gil-galad using Sentinels, Heralds, and Bow Knights. Not my preferred composition. I definitely prefer using Marksmen, or even March Wardens. You can, I believe, get around this area through conscription. And Bow Knights are not the strongest troop, particularly when you don't have the skills upgraded. Not that mounted would have been the only skill to make a difference here, but yeah, with half an army, we almost fully zero out this Gil-galad. So again, a very good result. We do run Tactical Mark, having picked up Palantir of Orthanc earlier on in the season through the Matham chest. That Tactical Mark definitely came in clutch here against this Gil-galad and gave us another very positive result. So, these two were definitely a net upside for us, which is very strong. Similarly, we had Elrond come through, hit an already half army Dwalin again, and with it only having a monostack left, the keepers are definitely going to just absolutely cut through that. You'll see almost all the damage was from the keepers. Apologies, headphones users. So yeah, cut through this Dwalin again. Very, very, very strong Dwalin. Another player that's been inducted into the fold. Yeah, not much you can take off that, as it is only half army. But then Elrond hit this Gandalf the White on follow-up. Again, it's Horik, the same player we saw previously, just as a result of the armies, the way they're stacked up. And we do fully zero this Gandalf the White, running, again, the kind of a very standardised King of Men build. Swans, War Drummers, and then one of Alchemists or Reapers. In this case, Reapers, which it is an interesting one, as the Reaper, you think, would annihilate the Keeper via its prioritisation of enemy units with the lowest defence, which you'll see here, 86 defence on the Herald. So it would go straight for the Keepers, and it did take quite a few Keepers out. So this is an expensive victory here. This cost only 4,000 Keepers, which is a lot of gold and a lot of time to replace them. However, in return, we do take out 5,000 Reapers and 750 Swans. And against a very strong Gandalf the White, again, another commander with unique. Against a strong Gandalf the White, we do take the victory, which is great. I've switched up this build to this melee build of Elrond. You'll see the skills here. We've kind of taken a few points out of High Alert and White Council, particularly with the Time and Ungo players coming in who primarily use good side troops. And we've then put those points into Boon. And the troop shift up is we've gone to 600 Swans, 1,300 Heralds, and then 5,000 Keepers. There's credit to a fair few people here for putting me onto this. I've got Spec in my own fellowship who kind of gave me the pointer towards this. And he got it from Ray in UTTP, who again has the same respect level Elrond as me, R8, and has been doing very well with it. And I think he got the build from I don't know how to pronounce it, but Lady City, I think Cite is in Sith, and she uses a respect 17, I believe, Elrond, and some of the results I've seen from that have been absolutely fantastic. So that put me onto this. So I thought I'd give it a try, and I think I've said in previous episodes how kind of we've been getting very, very mixed results with our Elrond. If anything, I'd say poor results with Elrond, losing the majority. Suddenly we've gone from that to winning a huge number of, we're performing significantly better. Got zeroed in the end by this Dwalin, but doing significantly better as a result. So credit to them for this really, really good build for Elrond. It's very, very strong. This Dwalin then hit us again, another good Dwalin. This time it's a mainly purple using Dwalin, which takes out our Elrond with very few troops. Then we have a hit on our Dwalin from this Theoden, which again is a very good result from Dwalin. Lose only about 3,000, around 2,800 Guardians, and in exchange we get some very, very expensive troops. We take out nearly 100 of the tier 4 chariots, which is, I think, about 20 command. 1,000 of the cataphracts and 650 rams. So that's a very, very expensive kind of victory on our part. And then we had Gandalf the White as well, just kind of coming in, and he swept up the last of a Gil Galad, which was sat on a tile. You'll see this was yesterday night, actually, about 11 o'clock. And that was around this tile here. You'll see that we're similarly hitting the tile ourselves, which actually, if people are doing that, I'm going to join in, see if I can assist. But this is kind of what I mean by the kind of back and forth. So we will. We've hit that tile last night, and that was one of the times when we broke a very, very large stack. That was what I mentioned earlier. We broke around a stack of around 60, 70 armies, which went very well. So that was about 11 o'clock last night. Since then, while we were asleep, it kind of got pushed back quite heavily. You'll see here, these are kind of reports of. Where was it? So we took that tile here, and then we kind of carried on going a little bit and saw what we could hit before we went to sleep, which included this Dwalin hitting an opposing Dwalin. Again, good frenzy hammer using Dwalin, but not full army. So if anything, I'd say that with the reduced amount of army, he probably won this won this, which is pretty good. And then we got zeroed by his Gil-galad. We had another victory with Elrond against a Gandalf the White. Again, another very strong Gandalf the White. So did very, very well, which we're more than happy with. And then defeat to Gimli. But this is a defeat where we only had 120k of army, and we've taken 180k off of the opposing army. So I definitely say that this, even in failure, this was definitely a good result for us. As with only half army, there's not a lot more you can expect from that, I think. You'll see the keepers just output ridiculous amounts of damage. So yeah, brilliant work from them. And then we had Witch King, which had a victory against this Gimli, just mopping up what was left. And I'm glad that Elrond did this first, as he actually took out 800 of the opposing depth defenders. Whilst their skills aren't fully upgraded, they have skills in particular that do very, very well against burn damage, which makes themselves deal burn damage when they take it, and makes their damage increase by 30%. So yeah, taking up most of those depth defenders before the burn damage from Witch King came in was very useful, as it meant that meant that we didn't have to deal with those depth defenders basically. So we did get the victory against that Gimli, and then we got hit by a Gil-galad straight after. And as I've shown, we do use a tactical mark Palantir, so kind of played a little bit into the Witch King's hands. So we did get a victory against this Gil-galad. Again, very strong Gil-galad, running kind of gold gear. Not fully strengthened all the way through, but high refinement, particularly on an Aegis Hunter's Guide, preventing from the Nazgul Screech stun, and also a very strong tactical maneuvers, Mithril Coat. So a very, very strong Gil-galad, and a good result for what was essentially a purple using, not even fully refined in places, Witch King. So it's a very good result for us. And then we did lose to a Gandalf the White, which is not surprising once we'd lost the War Drummers and the Swan Knights, that we would then struggle in the last one with only alchemists available, particularly against a counter like Gandalf the White. That Gandalf the White then hit against our Gandalf the Grey, which again, that's kind of an expected result, particularly when with the way Gandalf the White is set up with High Alert and Champion of Light. He's going to do incredible damage to Alchemists and Reapers, and we're going to struggle a little bit to output damage. So yeah, good result for Lathos there. Definitely takes the win on that one. And then we got zeroed by this Thorin, which I don't normally see Thorin too often, but I've seen a couple of them this season from Burn, which is good to see. Which then eventually we lost that tile, and this was so UTC 4 o'clock in the morning. So this was while we were sleeping, and then we've had some this morning, kind of where we've been guarding on this kind of crossing, guarding on the crossing area. Of course, the opponents have hit into the crossing from that tile they took last night and were stacking on all morning and all night. So we just left commanders there guarding, and they did hit into my guard. Oh, leave PvP on. So what did they hit on the guard? So Dwalin got hit by, I assume, was a follow-up shot. So this Elvisher's Gimli's probably taken out one of my fellows commanders and then hit through into my Dwalin. So we just kind of mopped that up. And then we have this hit from Elvisher again using his Theoden. A very nice Theoden. I'm a big fan of Theoden with the Mieras Reigns, something I used a lot in previous seasons, but I just found the cost of units to be, and time cost in particular of units, to be way too much. But he does get a victory here. We'd unfortunately lost, of course, our archers in this battle here, so we just take a lot more damage without that avoidance. If this was a time when I was online, might have been able to reinforce, maybe, which would have given us a better result. But unfortunately, I say, yeah, this is UTC 9 o'clock, so this is I run on GMT in the UK, so +1, so it would have been 10 o'clock for me, and I was at work, so yeah, no time for me to see any of this really. And then a very strong Gil-galad, as you'll see here, fully gold Gil-galad, full refinement on 2 pieces of equipment, including an Aegis Hunter's Guide and an Might of Elves Silver Harp, so very good items. And then almost fully refined Hallberg, as well as a very strong Elven White Knife, very good Gil Galad. And this took through the remainder of our Dwalin and actually beat Elrond comprehensively as well. The problem, of course, with my Elrond at the moment is I'm using Carved Dragon Tooth with Dragon Energy. So this means we've seen a lot of Theodens, he'll get very good results against them as a result of the mounted unit buff. We're mainly using this for the +6 attack on the elves, which gives those keepers a massive boost in damage. But what it does mean is, of course, we're not using hunters or tactical mark. So against a Gil Galad, particularly a good one like this, we're always going to take the L, unfortunately. So we got hit with, definitely hit with our counter, which is unfortunate, but yeah, we take defeat there. And then we also get hit with a counter here with Witch King being hit by a Gandalf the Grey. Now, of course, Gandalf the Grey using High Alert means that our damage from the Alchemist is going to be significantly reduced. Thankfully, using Quilted Armour and not using a Fire Protection Hallberg, or else this could have swung significantly more in our opponent's favour, but we get kind of a draw kind of in our opponent's favour here, and then defeated in the end by a Gandalf the White as well, which then hit, after it defeated Witch King, hit Gandalf the Grey, and yeah, Gandalf the Grey doesn't zero him unfortunately, but does a decent amount of damage, and then we get hit again by a Gil Galad, which for half army, not too bad to be honest. Keep whittling through these till we get there. So now we get to around now, basically. Eugene, glad you're enjoying the reports. Manuel Rosenberger, thank you for joining on. You said you took a keep. Which keep was it you guys took? Or was it Undeeps you're talking about? I can see that down here, the ball has been taken. I'm assuming you refer to the Undeeps keep. But welcome, thank you for joining on. Eugene. Need advice. Should I focus on Eowyn? I'm playing Season 2. I have Dwalin and Gandalf the Grey already, or is she not good later? So, in my opinion, I think you should stay focusing on Dwalin and Gandalf the Grey, definitely. So this is one of the things that I did previously, was I also focused on my Eowyn. So ever since about Season 2 or 3, I pushed her up to Respect level 14. She can be very, very good. I have a friend of mine, Storm, who pushed his up to Respect level, I think he Respect level 25, had the fully upgraded Unique. However, it's not as strong excuse me, in the current meta. It does also depend on whether you intend on continued play of role-play or non-role-play servers. So roleplay servers where only good side troops can go on good side commanders, you do see a lot of ranged units used, which plays into the hands of her Unique, where she receives significantly less range damage. So against good side, she kind of becomes top tier. However, in non-roleplay servers, you don't see as much ranged unit used. You see a lot more Reaper and Alchemist use, in which case she's not quite as strong. In my opinion, you should focus on Dwalin, as in current meta, Dwalin is one of the strongest commanders available. However, with all of this, definitely take it with a pinch of salt in the fact that the PBE changes, so the changes they've been trialling in the PBE servers, which I will summarise in a video soon. I've been kind of holding off on that. Those changes are going to be implemented soon, and that will see a massive shift in the meta of commanders and gear. So it might be worth. It's definitely. I still think it's worth pushing up Dwalin, as you will have the option for Respect Refund when those things come in. But yeah, Dwalin for now I would keep focused on, as he's one of the best commanders in the game, particularly for good side. Hopefully that helps. So yeah, just keep that in consideration. Scott Springer, Cavs cost too much later, stick with Dwalin. Yeah, and that's the other problem with Eowyn, of course, is that, as I said earlier with the Theoden, is that there is resource cost of mounted units, and particularly the time cost. It takes a huge amount of time to conscript those units, so that's what kind of makes mounted units maybe not as good as others, as you'll kind of be out of the battle more often than you'll be in because of how long they take. So, and Manuel Rosenberg, not in. Oh, you're not in our server. Sorry, apologies. I just kind of assumed. hopefully the keep take was successful. So what have we had this evening? We've had our Dwalin's been hit by another Thorin. I said we don't see too many. We have been hit by a Thorin. A very strong Thorin, actually, using Unique. I think that's one of the first times I've seen this. So increased damage against Orcs and Uruk-hai units, and bonus attack for Dwarves. I'm not sure that's the best item I've seen, but still not too bad, I suppose. If you're running a hybrid build with Thorin and not focusing on commander damage, we do take a slight victory on this one. Give me 2 seconds. I just need to quickly grab a drink for my throat, and I'll be right back, and I'll cover the rest of these reports. Apologies for that. I just need to quickly grab a drink, as constantly talking, I said, I've been a little bit coldy lately, so constant talking's been hitting the throat a little bit. Sorry about the kind of background noise. So yeah, Dwalin got a good result here against this Thorin. A slight, I'd say it was kind of a victory on our part, but it's fairly balanced. Good, it was a good draw. Then we got hit by this Isildur, which we're always going to lose with less than half army. Gandalf the Grey here got hit by what looks to be a scout. Gandalf the Grey, minimum troops. So, oh no, this is on the. Oh, sorry, this is when I sent the attack a moment ago. So, this Gandalf the Grey had zeroed its troops down while it reinforced, which is a clever strategy. And then we hit against another Gandalf the Grey straight after, which was definitely an overwhelming victory in our favour. We actually lost kind of almost nothing, which is quite good to see. Kind of a couple of war drummers, and that's about it. And then our Witch Kings come in with a 4-piece victory followed by a defeat. So I wonder if any of these are meaningful. First off, we finished off that Gandalf the Grey, which is nothing to write home about. As I predicted, yeah, Dwalin with 0 troops whilst it reinforced. We did hit this Theoden actually, which the Theoden's actually using Shire Protectors as well, which I haven't seen too much of this season, so that's a very strong result. Shire Protectors are a fantastic unit, particularly on Theoden, as he buffs their attack so much, plus 15. And Shire Protectors have a great range of skills. They can increase their own damage by 40%, and more importantly, they cannot be targeted by opponents' units until we've defeated. So I had to get through all of these tier 4 chariots and the 1200 Bone Knights before I could target the Shire Protectors. So they've got a huge damage buff and can't be targeted basically, so they keep their units up. So they're very, very strong. They're also resistant to madness, which in this case is not relevant, as Witch King doesn't inflict madness. But they have the ability to remove madness as well. Again, not effective in this case. When the allied commander is a hobbit or a man, increase the damage stat of the Shire Protector by 8 and speed by 8. Of course, Theoden is a man, so he does give them this plus 8 attack, plus the plus 15 from his Horse Master tree as well, and that plus 40% from the Shire Protector's unexpected threat. You can see here how much damage they're going to be outputting. Already 50 to 55 attack. That's enormous. And then they're mounted as well, so they take less damage. Imagine the opponent's damage is primarily the Shire Protectors. Yeah, 100k of damage there. Massive. But it looks like we got through the Chariots and the Bone Knights fairly quickly, and that allowed us to burn our way through burn our way through the Shire Protectors, thankfully, before they could do too much damage. And then we hit an empty Gandalf the Grey before being defeated by, I think, what was probably one of the last armies on the tile, this Gil-galad, and at that point we didn't have many troops left, so took a very expected L. Looks like we're now moving towards this second stack here, which I think was about 30 or 40 armies earlier on. So we're just going to reinforce and look to hit a few of those tonight. But hopefully I've kind of covered a lot of the movements of the server. The changes have been pretty massive since my last update. Of course, the loss of one of our kingdoms, one of the kingdoms of the map, is always going to be, not nice to see, having been in that position. So, yeah, it's always great to see that at least they've folded into burn and are going to continue with their server, and those that have will get rewards for having a kingdom and having capitals of that. I think it'd be a shame if the Time Mungo players who've been fighting all season didn't end up with any kind of season rewards, as they definitely deserve them. And I kind of want to touch a little bit on at least kind of my personal feeling around where we ended up with us taking their keeps, and of course them being pushed by Dino and Saw. It was kind of a collateral result of their war with Dino and Saw, but it's definitely, personally, I found it a little distasteful. I'll push through into Fangorn. It'd been kind of said at the beginning that the fights between Dino, Saw and Time Mungo were friendly fights. That definitely what was covered at the time when they first started, and it seems to have kind of slowly developed into an actual war, which is interesting. But I'm not a big fan of taking empty keeps. It's I think I've said earlier, kind of the second time we've pushed out the same area and taken the same keeps reasonably unopposed. And I wanted to kind of shout out the Time and Ungo players who, if those have watched the beginning of my season update videos, when we were being attacked in this area, or we'd come through and were fighting with IRSS in this kind of area, and we were being pushed back heavily by the fully strengthened IRSS at the start of the season. The first fellowship, first kingdom actually to push and try and help us with IRSS was actually Time and Ungo. They were the first kingdom to come and try and help us. So it definitely left a bit of a bad taste in my mouth when we moved this way, and trust me, it was definitely something I vocalised at the time. But as I said, I'm part of the team, I'm on this team, and I'm going to play. Once decisions are made by our leaders, I'm going to, play there, and I'm going to play with my team. So unfortunately that decision was made, and that's what we decided to do, but I just wanted to make sure to give Time and Ungo the shout out that they kind of deserved for the work they put in early season and the kind of help they gave us. I don't want them to think that it wasn't that it was unnoticed, basically. It's just unfortunate the way things ended up, and I hope that they basically ended up getting good rewards and things like that in the end, or most of them do. But yeah, so we're just going to keep reinforcing and moving in. Admiral Rex, hello, thank you for tuning in. We're going to reinforce a few of ours here with the intention of assisting our brethren in this kind of area. Of course, we do have Elrond here, who's in fact, it might be wiser actually. We have prepared a relocation pad. It might be wiser actually to remove these, speed all our commanders home, and then use that relocation pad. So you can see we've prepped one just here, right on this border. So actually, we're going to call all of our commanders back. That way, it'll be a lot easier for us to assist, because at the minute our actual keep is still sat over here, just in case anything happened. As at the time there was, there's still kind of armies and friendly PvP going on here with Jedi and Mora. Credit to them as well. They're just kind of engaging in the PvP that we, at times, we're trying to give them, but whilst we're being pushed so hard by the kind of time burn fellowship, we can't unfortunately give that at the moment. But we were doing previously when we were still kind of in our kind of capital box. We were kind of entertaining each other, which was good. So that's why we're still located in this region. But I think it's about time we moved away, basically. So we'll move towards the front line, definitely help with our reinforcements. Going to have to use a few gems here. And then we should be able to be better prepared for reinforcing, basically. That's where we're looking, just here. And there we go. So you can see how many other people are relocated in the background. You can see we're all kind of pressed close together here, all of us trying to relocate. And there's some relocation pads that are difficult to use, as of course anything kind of bordering any of these rivers, which there's a lot of, can't be used for a pad. But you'll see here a lot of the Burn players have relocated up here as well. You've seen a few of the reports, I imagine, for them. So you've got like HKO here, Hell's Lynn, German Fox. There's loads of these players here. Zero Fox, I've hit a few times. You've got Eju Bu, or EJUBU, who's a fellow YouTuber as well, who's been doing streams on this kind of on this server as well. So feel free to check him out if you want a perspective of kind of where he's came from, because he is a player who was originally also one of the time players, and has of course jumped across. So if you want a perspective of kind of what happened to their kingdom from their perspective, then I definitely recommend you check out his streams. But yeah, there's loads of them around here, so at some point we're going to have to try and see what we can do to deal with this. You can see these fights now are starting to move up. Looks like we've blown the guard on a lot of this stack here, with only 11 left. 8 stacked over here, primarily from 1 or 2 players, I think. And it looks like Drum Fellowship was moving towards, so they're stacking over here. Was moving towards and across to try and get towards this little choke point, so that'll probably be where things move. But you can see it's quite back and forth for the minute. We have both teams end up with massive stacks, and then they kind of blow each other apart and come back. Admiral Rex, got to say, this server's still going, even though there's only a week left. I wonder if fighting will go until the cutoff. It's another good reminder of another thing I actually haven't yet mentioned, so thank you for that. Season chapters, we haven't completed the season chapters and likely won't, as any kingdom taking 5 significant control points is unlikely. I think the max at the minute is of course Chaos Sith Kingdom up here with their capital Grey Havens. They also have Anuminas, and of course their third excuse me, their third being Dol Guldur itself. If they wanted to seek 5, hopefully they don't. If they do seek to get 5, of course the nearest to them then is our own capital Orthanc, or also Gundabad up here from IRSS, who they're currently fighting against down here. So hopefully it's likely that they would push kind of that direction against those that have been fighting and, you know, active against them, whereas we haven't at any point kind of engaged anything against them. You can see all these passes obviously are still uncaptured. We've never had any intention of doing anything with Chaos, and we've always had good communications with them. Whilst not allied or anything like that, it's always been friendly relations. So but yeah, it looks like we're not going to complete those chapters, but what has come up is the season cutoff timer. So we have this down here in the bottom corner. So it's going to end on the 27th of September at midnight UTC. So we've got just over a week left. So it looks like we're going to pick up, provided we don't lose our kingdom, which hopefully we do not, 700 medals as a result of obviously not getting great results out of the regional control, which we never were going to in a server this active. Similar with Coronation of Glory, with only 1 control point, which gives us that Challenger badge. But we will get good results out of the teamwork. We're actually 32nd in our kingdom contribution, a little bit lower than where we normally are. Of course, this kingdom contribution is just since our kingdom was reformed, but previously we had a little period of inactivity, particularly at the beginning due to sickness, so our performance wasn't as good as it should have been, which kind of led us to slip behind a little bit, but we're slowly making our way up the rankings. I think I was 36th, maybe slightly higher before that, before today, so we are making our way up slowly. Now let's try and get our commanders back onto the battlefront. But yeah, just to respond to your comment there, Rex, I definitely agree that this server is absolutely magnificent. It kind of was expected that would be the case. With so many tough teams, no one's going to want to be the ones to bow out, basically. So everyone is just fighting till the last possible second. There's so many really strong players, strong fellowships. So yeah, it's great to see that everyone's just fighting the entire time. And then you're heading off. Have a good rest of the stream and rest of your day. Thank you, Rex. Thank you for tuning in. Very much appreciated, and thank you for your inputs as well. Manuel Rosenberger, what's the top merit of our guys? So for home here, I don't think we can only see kind of this week's merit. We do have Sampi and Omen, as well as Rabbit and Bean, Gugu Zhao, the usual guys we see in most of our season ones. Our problem with these kind of kingdom merit ones is that this has only been tracking since our kingdom was reformed, so all of the kind of merit that was picked up before we lost our kingdom the first time kind of gets wiped out, which is unfortunate, and then everyone starts from scratch from there. But we do have Sampi Durin and Hollow Soul, Bean, then Gugu Zhao. You'll have seen particularly 1, 3 and 4 there in previous seasons. If you watch my videos, they've always been a very strong staple of home. Very strong commanders, very active, fantastic players. Player like Gugu Zhao I've played with since season 1, when we were in exactly the same server, so we've always been playing together. And Hollow Soul is someone who played with us last season using an alternate account, and then decided to put his main account into home this season, and has, along with Sampi, probably some of the best commanders in home. He does have a very, very strong Sunind with, I think it's got a 3 or 4 star refined unique on it, so it's very, very strong. And then we've got a couple of the guys here. We've got Arakos from Drum, as well as Mark Way in 7th. He's doing well. We do have Admiral Rain in 6th, who I love, uses a really good Boromir, which is awesome to see. And so there's a few guys here. Omen, who uses, who's another person who kind of put me onto the melee build of Elrond, been using similar, has a slightly better Elrond than me, kind of similar gear but more refined. And hers is, I think, respect 12, I believe, 12 or 13, and is right up there in terms of, her Elrond is just top tier, and right up there for merit in 11th. And we have our leader, Vanara, as well, who's, shout out to Van here, she's been fantastic, 12th for merit contribution. And, I'll just kind of scroll and give all these guys a shout out. They've all been absolutely busting their ass here to try and get us the result that we think we can deserve or should deserve. So I'm just going to kind of go to 50th place here. Any of the kind of Asian characters tend to come from the dragon side of Drum. But that's kind of our top 50 here. But it shouldn't just be taken on the top 50 of merit, of course, as some of our team has been, they might sit outside the top 50, but they've still done fantastically well. They're still fighting every chance they get, as you can see here, and still working as hard as they can to get us the best result. Players who have almost unspoken value quite often don't feature on merit tables. Players who do like the massive amount of tiling and things like that, take all those tiles, like all of this around here will not have just been taken by the strongest, highest respect commanders. There will be players who literally they will work their fingers to the bone, basically taking all of these tiles to engage in the kind of tile warfare, and they won't feature on any kind of merit table, but are just as valuable as the strongest players. So shout out there as well. And those players know who they are. We kind of credit them as often and much as we possibly can. But it's quite good to see this here. So let's move our commanders onto this crossing for now anyway. Don't know, that's going to take 8 minutes. Might chuck a Sildor in here as well, as he is using troops that we're no longer really using, marksmen, sentinels and Dunedain. The only thing we're kind of using those ranged troops on is I've put them on Elrond for now as We don't have enough keepers, unfortunately, for the melee build. We do have some hiring. We do have another 4,000 coming in 6 hours. We don't actually have a keeper camp, so we're doing this through the employment hall. And the employment hall has a limit of 60 command per day, which I have to kind of share between the keepers and war drummers, because of course I need war drummers for Gandalf the Grey, Witch King. We're using a heck of a lot of war drummers, so we need to share between the two of those, which means sometimes I'm not going to have keepers available, so I'll have to use the ranged kind of build. But we'll move all those in. I just realised we haven't also refilled Witch King. 900 of those. Yeah, you'll see we're running a little bit low on drummers, so we'll pick up another load of those tomorrow morning. But let's move everyone over to here. And you can see so we're still scrapping around this 200 tile here. Kind of the arrows coming in and then arrows moving away as well. And then I imagine we'll move on this kind of stack here, on this 260 tile. To be honest, I don't know why we're bothering with the stacks. We could just beeline it straight to this choke point and clean behind us afterwards, as if we start hitting forts, players are not going to be moving this way, are they? So, but hey, it's still great to engage in the warfare with a week left. It's great that everyone's still got something to play for. Of course, we've got kind of capital and our lands to play for. Chaos is playing for Hold of the Ring. UTTP only and IRSS are all fighting for control of the ring. Dino and Saw, I think, are still fighting against remains of Time and Ungo who haven't switched over to Burn. So they've still got something going. I don't know what they'll do after that, whether they'll scrap in other regions or whether they'll seek to kind of join this ring fight, which for kind of Chaos's sake I hope is not the case. I think 3 Kingdoms v1 is probably a bit much. But they've done fantastically well, and if I had to give my personal view on who I hope ends this server with the ring, just on my based on who I think kind of deserves it, I'm going to give kind of I'll give like a preliminary shout out to Dino and Saw, who have assisted Home and Drum a lot this season. Have never kind of sought to fight us, so shout out to them. Also UTTP only, who have just put up a magnificent spectacle around Dol Guldur. But I definitely think the kingdom that deserves the ring is the one that's held it most of this time, in my opinion, which is Chaos. They've constantly gone kind of 1v2 almost throughout this server, whether that have been UTTP only and at times they were fighting up here as well, with, I think it was previously the Sand Kingdom. And then it became TTP only and Dinosaur around Dol Guldur, which at times got to the point where actually they were sieging Dol Guldur, and then Chaos managed to push back, and now it's IRSS and UTTP only. So I think that, yeah, if a team deserved Dol Guldur, it's definitely Chaos. They've definitely shown enough to show that they deserve it. They're a really, really powerful team. I think most players who've played a considerable number of seasons will have heard of Chaos. They are one of the stronger teams, so definitely I think they deserve it. The Chaos merit points would be nice to know. Oh god, yeah, I would love it. I'd love to see the merit in Chaos. I bet it's absolutely ridiculous for some of the players. Chaos and Sith. I appreciate I've just been saying Chaos, but that's because I believe the kingdom's called Chaos, isn't it? I could be wrong. I thought the kingdom was named Chaos. Yeah, but yeah, shout out to Sith as well. Sorry, I shouldn't just be saying Chaos. Of course, you're right. Sith as well have also put in absolutely ridiculous hard work as well. So I meant them as a kingdom, not specifically the Chaos Fellowship. Sith have been putting in great work as well. So yeah, that as a kingdom, I think they definitely deserve to be the ones to hold Dol Guldur. Mad Martigan, thank you for jumping on. Don't worry, I will be playing again with Echo a little bit later on today and this evening. How's Elrond been performing? I did show a few of his reports earlier on. If you watched any of my previous streams, I think I mentioned to you in Fellowship Chat on the other account that we had been struggling a little bit with Elrond, but now we've switched his build. We have been performing significantly stronger. I covered that we lost this one, but that's just because it was a kind of a counter fight against a very strong Gil-galad when we don't run tactical mark, so that was always going to be a loss. But elsewhere we've had very, very strong results with him. For example, against this, this is a Gandalf the White with unique, and I'm going to fully recover these, but running this kind of melee based build with keepers has done absolute wonders for him. We had again here against Dwalin, then zeroing a Gandalf the White, and then with a little army we lost to Dwalin. Where else is Elrond? Not sure how many more. There's a few around the tunnels, so we took out remainder of an Eowyn army. Zeroed a Sauron, which is something we really struggled with previously, with Sauron's counters Elrond pretty well, but since we switched our gear around, we have madness resistance now. We actually zeroed this Sauron, which was great to see. This was the one that kind of, I'll be honest, this kind of convinced me on the build more than anything. We've been getting really, really great results with him. We got taking out Gandalf the White, and then also zeroing a Sunind as well. But basically we've been having great results with Elrond since shifting to this melee build. So definitely been getting significantly better results with Elrond. So I'm very, very happy with him, which is not something I thought I would have been saying about a week ago. Daniel Esteves, how my friend Bene is doing. He left us to play with home. I assume you're a former power player, Daniel. Yeah, Bene's doing really well. Someone I speak to fairly often, to be fair. Let's see if I think he's on the. See where he comes up on the board. Yeah, 17th for merit. So right up there. He's been very, very active throughout the season. So shout out Bene as well. Doing absolutely great work. Right, I think we're hopefully going to get our commanders in the next few minutes, and we can send on this 200 and see what we can put out. Just kind of waiting for it now, to be honest. My camera looks a little bit shaky for some reason, not sure why. Bumps in the desk maybe. But this area is completely back and forth, and I can imagine once we go to sleep, we'll end up stacked up on these crossings, and I expect to wake up in the morning and the opponent to have taken at least one of these crossings, as they do tend to be very active whilst we're asleep, particularly as you saw earlier around 4 AM when they took back a lot of the lands last time. Earlier on today they did actually break through. They took the crossing here, took this side, this 200 tile, and were trying to stack on it, and had a few commanders kind of running in this direction. But then we kind of got it back to grips and pushed back. But that's kind of the nature of the server. The server in this battle so far. Everything's just kind of back and forth. So it's brilliant to see. Let's see if we've got any fellowship reports while we wait. Ajax here fighting against an Isildur with Aragorn, King of Men. It's a very weird build for Isildur. I think in here this player probably was very, very low on troops, because he's running Snargathrax, which of course completely nullifies the damage avoidance you get, or damage reduction you get from Last Alliance, which requires you to only use elves and men, and he's running Snargers. So that means that, of course, Ajax here, without even a full army, does take a very overwhelming victory. That I think those Snargers have probably come from either that Isildur's been used as a tiler, or it's or it's just out of troops. But those Snargers probably come from conscription of mobs, though I'm curious why you wouldn't just conscript like these Dunedain ones, which would be more beneficial. Yeah, odd build, that one. What else we got? Daddy King's Dwalin actually taking a big loss to this Gandalf the Grey, which is interesting. Running, again, standard kind of non-roleplay composition with alchemists. That's why. So he doesn't have the maxed Warrior of the Lonely Mountain skill, which is unfortunate. I think if looks respects 17, so maybe slightly lower on skill points, which is unfortunate. Just met a bad matchup basically and got that burn damage. I don't think he's running not running anti-burn chest either. So it might be worth potentially him looking into shifting to that as as alchemists are used very heavily in non-roleplay. Still got our commanders moving. Let's take a look at Rabbit here, who again was another one who was near the top of our prestige rankings. Rabbit here using his Gimli, so nice purple Gimli with fully strengthened and twice refined unique. Does take on this Dwalin using purples. Obviously slightly reduced army, so gets the victory there, and then gets defeated by the same Gandalf the Grey again. Not using burn resistance, so that's kind of the thing with alchemists. If you don't have a level of burn resistance, you're always kind of going to lose to them. Let's take a look at St. Peter-In's. So this is the player top of our merit, and you'll see why. You can see here he's kind of defeated 2 Gandalf the Whites and then defeat to a Dwalin. So takes out it's about a 60% army. Gandalf the White, again using things like half trolls, which is just odd. But yeah, this is his Dwalin. Absolutely magic, basically. It's an absolute animal. So definitely you can see why he's top of our prestige ranking. Using the Frenzy Hammer, of course, the most broken item in the game at the moment, which I'm kind of, the one thing I'm excited for PvE is going to see the kind of nullification, at least a little bit of the Frenzy Hammer. It's not going to be as broken as it was previously. Then we have the Warborn Battle Plate with Fortitude of Soldiers. Again, increased defense and reduced melee damage received. Very good choice. Melee Suppression, Cask of Pride, and a fully refined Gift of Nature, Entdraft Calabash, giving that bonus might for more commander damage, and plus 6 HP, which is massive for his troops. And you can see he's got a good respect level as well. One more respect level and he'll actually do even more damage. You can get 1 more point into all in. Personally, against these guys, I'd personally drop the Musician and Relief and then put 1 more point into all in and put 2 points into Longbeard, but that's just my personal preference. But yeah, Magnificent Dwalin here takes out this Gandalf the White, hits a second Gandalf the White is low, but then hits another very, very strong Dwalin. This one is actually using the Cleave instead of Friendly, which again is a very, very good build. All the way through, fully strengthened gear and good refines on the gold gear. And at this point, it's just kind of army levels which told. Looks like Sampi lost 217k army, the opposition lost 270k, so still a victory. Despite it saying defeat, still a victory for Sampi there. What else have we got? Frank's hitting with his Sieger, hitting against the Dwalin and losing a lot of his siege troops. Sampi here. See, this is kind of the strength of the Frenzy Hammer. You can see takes out this Thorin. Very, very strong Thorin again. I said we've started seeing quite a few of these. But takes it out with minimal loss, which is good to see. Amazing, very active. Good to see he's doing great. Yeah, Benny's been doing fantastic. Biggest pin you saw on my server until now. Is that asking me what the biggest pin is? If so, so we'll just quickly send these over first. Let's go Dwalin first. Kind of time all of these in. I think Dwalin's the next. Elrond, sorry, is the next slowest. 214. Biggest pin we've seen is definitely between UTTP and Chaos. I think they had one pin that tipped over 50 million at one point around Dol Guldur. The thing is, the pins haven't really ever dropped beneath 40 million. All they've kind of ended up doing is splitting between multiple regions. So at the minute there's like 3 different areas they're pinned with UTTP only, not including the pins with the pins with like IRSS as well, and at times Dino and Saw. But at the points where they were all focused in one location with UTTP only, we did see pins of over 50 million, which is absolutely nuts. Yeah, and credit to them. Biggest pin for my fellowship is the current pin we have here, which is about 16 million. I'll bring that up again in a second. I don't know if it's gone up now, as it's dropped to 15 million, as a few of the battles earlier this morning I assume have dropped off the pin, but yeah, this is the biggest pin we've had. We're definitely slightly less than Chaos and Sith. I need to remember to keep saying Sith. Apologies for the Sith watchers here, full credit to you as well. Sick Bro Robin with the wave, thank you for jumping in the stream, I very much appreciate it. Just a quick shout out here from me. If anyone watching hasn't already done so, please could you hit the like button? I'd massively appreciate it. It helps to push out my stream to others, and so that'd be massively, massively appreciated. If you're not already subscribed, please also hit the subscribe button to pick up more from me, and I will continue to cover through my season as well. RTS Mobile has a few of the Sith fights. These fights are crazy. Yes, so RTS Mobile, for those who don't know, I'm sure you will know, is a very large content creator in the kind of community for Rise to War, and he is in the Chaos Sith kingdom, so he'll have some of those fights there. So if you're interested in seeing any of their kind of highlights there, definitely check him out. Big shout out to him here. 260 armies going at the same time. Flipping heck. Right, we're about to get our armies all coming in and hitting this tile here. And there we go. We do get the victory here. Sorry if you can hear me kind of with sniffles here, apologies. So the first thing we hit is with Gandalf the Grey using my Reaper build against this Thorin. Low army and mainly ranged troops. We were never going to take much damage here. Definitely going to take that out. Then we hit a Galadriel. Again, low troops, only a couple of Dunedain, so we finished that off. And then we hit a Gil-galad. Very strong Gil-galad, actually, using full gold gear all the way through. So very, very good Gil-galad. But, of course, Tier 4 March Wardens as well, and Bow Knights. I'd still say Sentinels are better than Bow Knights. I don't understand the obsession with Bow Knights. I think the only reason they're still being used is they're easily pulled in from the mobs, as I said, so that's why they're being used. But Reapers against ranged units just absolutely eat them alive. Oh, I need to finish upgrading my Reapers. I didn't realise I hadn't done that. Extra 5% damage I'm missing out on. But yeah, as they prioritise the enemy unit with the lowest defense stat, they're always going to hit the ranged units. You'll see the March Wardens have 69 defense, Heralds 102, and 59 for the Bow Knights. So the Reapers basically went straight for the Bow Knights and wiped them out, and I'm sure we'll see in the report that the enemy Bow Knights did next to no damage. Yeah, exactly. So that's what they did. They just culled off the Bow Knights, basically. On our way to us getting a draw, but a kind of a draw based, focused more on our side. Dwalin then came in and wiped the Gil-galad. Interestingly, we actually still had 11 marksmen left, which is quite good, as it means we'll get 2 more instances of evasion in the next fight, which comes up against. Unfortunately, it's a reduced army, Isildur. And then we had a draw with we have reduced army and don't have that evasion. But we come up against this Dwalin, which is using a Frenzy Hammer, but there's no point really using a Frenzy Hammer unless you can get maybe 3-star Refine on it. So yeah, we do get a draw, again a draw in our favour here. And then it kind of got mopped up by Elrond, who I assume took out the army and then took the tile. Yeah. So yeah, we're kind of chilling here. We just need to we should probably reinforce before we see before the protection drops. Oh, we're running a little bit low on Guardians there. Can't wait till our we've got a big queue of hiring kind of on the way at the second. As soon as that finishes, we'll be all the better, as we can see a few of our troops are running actually a little bit low there. But we've got a massive wave of troops set to come in, so we'll be all fine in the morning. We do still have Witch King and Isildur, who arrived last, so they'll be top of the pile. At which point we can so we'll take a few of these here. See, this commander's coming in here, Black Sith, which I think was the Gandalf the Grey. Don't be so harsh on Burn. I don't think I've been harsh on Burn. I've been saying the whole time through that this fight we've had here with them has been fantastic so far, and yeah, it's great to see. What do we hit here? Just a Gandalf the Grey, okay, not much, right. Need to unlink here as soon as Isildur comes back. Not Isildur, sorry, Witch King. That's who we're going to send over here. I'm actually just going to kind of secure this tile for now. Let's send Isildur here, see if this is an army worth hitting. A few of our reinforcements coming in, so we can start sending out other commanders too. Looks like a lot of these are being recalled. Yeah, so we're not really actually hitting anything, they're just kind of being recalled. Poor Gil getting this fall from grace. To be honest, I'm actually seeing Gil-galad kind of come a little bit more back into the meta, in the sense that it's a weird one. He dropped out of the meta, of course, because of the prevalent use of Tactical Mark and Hunter's Mark with Pursuit. But as Gil-galad is used less and less, as a result, less and less people will run Tactical Mark and will instead choose to run differing buffs. And if that happens, then we might see Gil kind of yo-yo his way in and out of the meta. So he could always come back. He's still a very, very strong commander, because of course if you hit anything that doesn't have Tactical Mark or Hunter's Mark, you get a kind of a pretty overwhelming victory, to be honest. Right, I've taken a few hits here. Let's see what the results were. So we had this player from Bern here hit with his Gandalf the Grey, which I said I thought so was the... Oh no, this is a different player, sorry. Running a Reaper build, which came in a draw. We then were defeated by his Theoden. And then our Dunedain build, Isildur. Then this is a very expensive draw for the opponent. We're kind of using cheap troops. We're using tier 2s and Dunedain that we can get through that, not even fully upgraded, that we can get through the, what do you call it, where you pull in the mobs. So, yeah, good result for us, that one there. Just need to reinforce a few of these now. Not reinforce, well, yeah, reinforce things like Isildur, for example. Load of new reports we can take a look at if anyone's interested. First up, Stefan, what do I think about the PBE changes? I'll actually leave that one for now. I'm going to do a video on PBE changes. As I said earlier, I'm going to kind of leave it and wait for now, and I'm going to do a video. I've kind of held off a little bit as I didn't want to give my kind of knee-jerk reaction to PBE. I wanted to give it a little bit of time for everything to settle and for me to take a look. But I will give my opinion and kind of summarise all the changes in another video soon, so don't worry about that one. It's kind of half army, that one. Dwayne against... This is IRSS against drums. It's actually fighting against our sister fellowship, but this Gorbag's only level 41, so there's not a lot we can take off that. Again, level 42. Why are drum using such low level commanders? And then using Mumakil, and if you're using Mumakil, they shouldn't be using any of these other troops, which are a bit unnecessary. But it's good to see that you're having you're enjoying using Eagles with Dwalin. I think Eagle Dwalin's actually a little bit underrated, as it makes him fantastic for kind of flying around the map and makes him a good tiler. But also Eagles are very, very strong, particularly against good side that uses melee units. Supreme GX, so send in through a few Chaos/Sith reports. So Supreme GX is in Sith. Thank you for sending these through. I'll definitely give these a run through. So of course we haven't seen too much, as it's been mainly Fog of War. So give some of these. So this Supreme GX in Sith using his Dwalin, which I assume is going to be a Frenzy Dwalin. Yeah, indeed, very nice Dwalin. Good to see. Even with tier 2 units still performing well up against this Gorbag from IRSS. So not fully strengthened gold gear, but very good refines on it as well. So a strong Gorbag. Using a pretty standard build. Pretty good build as well. And Dwalin definitely coming out on top here. I use Elra here. That's great to see. I don't know what it is. I've seen a few times in World Chat in this server. Elra here has been used a few times. And I must be honest, I can't say I've ever considered using him or seen anyone else using him until I've come in and I've seen Sith and Chaos, quite a few players using Elra here. It was probably yourself I saw the first time. Excuse me. So yeah, using March Wardens, Keepers and Swans, which is an interesting build up against a Gil-galad. So let's check this out first. Mainly a purple build with some strengthens and refine. And your Elra here is kind of awesome. I'm kind of in love. Gift of Nature on your Dragon Tooth. Got an Elven White Knife, assume tactical maneuvers, yep, and then a Hysteria Cowl. Interested to see what respect level is this. I must say I'm not sure what Elrahere's role is, so I'm not sure what respect level this comes out as. But yeah, very nice Elrahere here and getting fantastic result. Mad Martigan there saying that Gil Galad is fall from grace. Okay, this one kind of shows it here with without even using tactical mark. Elrahere here absolutely culls off this this Gil Galad. And then also fights against... Oh, Respect 16. Great to see. Thank you for sending that through. And then also comes up against this Gimli. Are these back to back? No. But... Oh, I missed out the Gandalf the White. Is that back to back? So 2293. Yeah, so after defeating that Gil, then hits a Gandalf the White straight after. Running again the standard non-roleplay build, which is very strong, with Reapers. And it's a decent Gandalf the White as well. And again, gets a draw, but... in my books, that's a victory. So that's 250k army defeated for around 100k loss for yourself. Definitely a good victory there. That's great to see. And then took on this Gimli. Again, Gimli with unique, good Gimli. And comes up with the victory again, 350k, including the loss of a lot of very expensive tier 4s. And you lost 500 of your own tier 4s and around 2k of keepers. So that's great to see. Yeah, that's really strong. I'm enjoying that. Thank you for sending those through. And then a few more being sent through. So again, using eagles. So good. This is fun. This eagle build, Dwalin. Looks like you're getting very good results. Of course, we've shown this in previous streams. Very, very strong Dwalin. Taking on a Gandalf the White, and if Gandalf the Grey, sorry, and if Gandalf's using only melee units, the eagles are definitely going to eat him alive. Basically, I think eagles are very underrated, kind of in the meta, and I've said they allow you to march incredibly quickly. But the other thing is that their damage received from melee units, that minus 60% is huge. And in non-roleplay, ranged units aren't used particularly, you know, they're very rarely seen. You're seeing even here in like a lot of the Gandalf the Greys, things like that. There's no ranged units on there. You're seeing a lot of melee with the Reapers or Alchemists being used with War Drummers and Swans. The ranged units aren't really used very often, actually, ironically, unless you come up against a Gil Galad. You don't see a lot of ranged units, so actually eagles could be very, very strong in this meta. I use Elrond. Love it. Oh, a very good Elrond as well. Did lose out to this Thorin. Consider using the melee build that I covered earlier on. Are eagles counted as melee units, or what do they count? Yeah, they do count. Eagles themselves count as melee units. Their attacks are melee, not ranged, and they don't use any kind of elemental damage, so yeah, they're counted as melee units. I'll cover this last one here for, don't know how to say it, this time using Dwalin with a more standard build, using 2 tank units with the Guardians and Guards of the Tower. Still using Rams. I'm not a huge fan of Rams. I think I've said previously, not a big fan of Rams, as you have to get lucky with the Rams hitting the same unit that Dwalin himself is going to hit to kind of make use of that reduced defense. But still a fantastic result. And this is against Sith. Let's see this here. Very strong. So again, you're seeing kind of the level of some of the Sith commanders here. Very nice. Using Panic, actually, to inflict madness was interesting. Normally you'd see Cleave here being used. And you've got a Warborn Battle Plate fully refined. A Last Resort Helm. Love that. That's definitely what I'd recommend for King of Men, Last Resort, given that bonus damage after round 6, which is when Return of the King kicks in. And also an Entdraft Calabash. This is fortunately for yourself here, and unfortunately for Lord Mammoth, Dwalin is possibly the best counter here against King of Men. This is definitely a result in your favour. But this, I can imagine this King of Men has caused a lot of trouble for a lot of commanders, but you've hit very well with that counter. So basically with King of Men, all of his damage avoidance comes from, or damage reduction, sorry, as I've said earlier, comes from King of Men, which is entirety of the battle minus 90% once the troops are hit with stun or madness. Of course, with Dwalin not inflicting stun or madness, they're basically taking 90% more damage than they would when facing off against, say, a Witch King, Gandalf the Grey, something like that. So yeah, it's a very good matchup for Dwalin there, but a fantastic report, and again, it's a very, very strong commander, so credit to you there. Great job. Mad Martin, exactly right. Rams and Dane never hit the same target, so it's extremely frustrating for you. Yeah, so that's the slight thing that makes Rams on Dwalin slightly more viable than on Dane, of course, is that... oh, actually, no, you're not running Frenzy. I was about to say, if you're running Frenzy, you get follow-up, so you'll be hitting twice the number of targets each round with your commander, so there's more of a chance you'll hit the same target as the Rams. But in this case, yeah, in my opinion, I don't think Rams are in the best build. I'd rather run like a single command of some kind of ranged unit for that avoidance, in my opinion. But I trust your Dwalin's very, very strong and getting very, very good results, so use what best works for you, to be honest. A lot of people just use what other people kind of recommend, and I quite like it when people go off their own experience, so all power to you. So if we got all our commanders here, have we got any zeroed out who aren't here? Don't think so. Oh, Dwalin, yeah, we go, he's still marching back. I was thinking we're missing something. I couldn't think off the top of my head what it was we were missing. There he is. I don't think we're going to bring him back, no, so we're going to be zeroed on Guardians for a while. We do have more of those coming in. How are we looking apothecary-wise? 136. So yeah, it would be good for now to take these hits and then move on. Right, in that case, I think I've kind of covered everything here. I've shown quite a lot of our fighting gameplay here, our progression on Burn. You'll see we've kind of progressed sideways as well. And I've shown a lot of the rundown of the server and how things have moved. It's just a really great server to be a part of. Everyone here, shout out to every player who's been in this server. It's an absolute slog because every team here is, you know, of the level that they would usually kind of steamroll a lot of normal servers. That's kind of why Home ended up coming to these kind of Kings of Men servers, similar to the last ones against Toby and X-Hub, trying to find big teams to fight, and we've definitely found that. So shout out to everyone here. They're all kind of top teams, all scrapping against each other. Yeah, and I think that's going to be everything from me. So thank you everyone who's tuned in to the stream. If you haven't already, please hit the like button. I'd massively appreciate that to help push my stream out there. And also, if you haven't already subscribed, if you could please subscribe, I'd massively appreciate it to catch more of my videos in future. It's been a bit of a longer stream than usual. It's about 90 minutes, coming up on 100 actually. So if you do appreciate slightly more content and showing the PvP along with the season update, yeah, definitely let me know, and I'll try and keep this up for the future. With the season ending in 9 days, we will. I'll try and do a couple more frequent updates, but again, it depends on time freedom, basically. But yeah, thank you everyone for tuning in. I massively appreciate each and every one of you. So thank you so much for tuning in, and I really hope to see you on the next one.